Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I'm John Bernardi from United Way of the Adirondack region. The big news today is the wind is going to mess up my hairdo, and I need all the help I can get because I'm not as spiffy as Assemblyman Jones is, but I'll do the best I can with what I have. I've asked regional leaders from Clinton, Essex, and Franklin counties to come together today to talk about the importance of the Census 2020 count, which, as you know, is wrapping up on September 30th, so we're only a few weeks off of the end. And as you're probably aware, it's very important that we have a complete count because it has a direct impact on the quality of life in our region. It impacts funding for things such as schools and hospitals. It affects government representation. It can have an impact on grant opportunities and various other human service programs and the resources that are important to address numerous issues across the region. So we're encouraging people across our entire Adirondack region to either self-respond to the census or to talk to the census takers if they visit your property, because again, it's extremely important that we have a complete count, and we only have a few weeks left in order to get that. So I'm going to call upon my esteemed colleagues to make a few remarks. I'm going to start with our esteemed Assemblyman Billy Jones, who, as you know, is always there to answer the call and always there to get involved in issues that are important to people in the region. So, Assemblyman Jones.
Thank you, John, and thank you all for being here to cover this important issue. And I want to thank the team behind me because they have been doing work on this for several months to make sure we are counted here in the North Country. And John had mentioned about how important it was to be counted. It affects every facet of our life. It affects our representation. It affects our schools, our hospitals, health care, infrastructure, everything that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, this affects. And it's easy to do. We must point that out, how easy this is to do. You fill out the form, you go online, you do it. It literally takes 3 minutes. If all of you have done it out there, it's very easy to do. I travel all around my district and I travel all around the North Country, and we're always talking about how, you know, the North Country is underrepresented. And why would we continue to contribute to that by not at least being counted? It's the least we can do as citizens to be counted here. Let's show that we are represented, and let's show that we want these resources that we need. The federal government relies on this information for funding. It's very important, and it's extremely important that we are counted. It's easy to do. We have less time this year to do it as well. They have cut the door-to-door, the census takers going door-to-door by a month. It was to be set October 30th. We're getting near the middle of September here. We have to September 30th. So don't let it be one of those things we procrastinate anymore on. Get that form in, do it online, send in the form. There'll be census takers. They're going door to door with those little things you'll see, the door hangers. They leave that behind. It's extremely important that we do this. John had mentioned it affects our representation. It affects our funding. Two very, very vital, important things that are so important to our democracy, so important to the funding we get from our federal partners and the state. So make sure we do that. The message here is a message of necessity and awareness. Get out there, send in that little slip. It's very easy to do. Go online. You can literally do it from your phone. It takes less than 5 minutes, and it's so important to us. Let's be represented the way that we should be here in the North Country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Assemblyman Jones. And as I said, he's always there to answer the call for issues that are important to people in our region. One of the approaches we've taken over the past couple of months, since March actually, was to create a complete count committee in each of our 3 counties of Clinton, Essex, and Franklin. These are comprised of county officials, nonprofit representatives, faith-based groups in some cases, and individual residents. And these committees have been strategizing and implementing those strategies in order to reach hard to serve and vulnerable populations across the region. And so we've asked representatives from Clinton, Essex, and Franklin to be here today to talk a little bit about how important it is in the counties they represent. I'll call upon Mr. Russ Kenyon from Franklin County Economic Development, who has been our Franklin County lead and partner through the Complete Count Committee process. Russ Kenyon.
Thank you, John. I want to express my appreciation to John and the United Way. They've been an amazing partner for Franklin County with our census count this year, and we also appreciate Assemblyman Jones and his support, as well as our Franklin County Complete Count Committee members. Participation in the census is so important for our communities. It's not just about counting and data at the federal level, it's about our communities, and it's really about us. For each person that doesn't get counted, we lose a share of that federal funding and that representation that is so critical to our communities, especially now during these times. And the more resources and representation we lose, the more that our locals are forced to bear and the costs that get passed on to our local residents. So we want to make sure we're taking full advantage of those federal funds by making sure we get counted. And we understand, why some folks might be, nervous about sharing their information, especially online. But we're assured by our census representatives that only the most essential information is being asked for to make sure that we know who is living where and making sure those people get counted and represented. We also want to remind people that have second homes or seasonal homes, which are very common in the North Country here, that you would also need to fill out the census for those addresses as well. So we encourage you to do that. So please be sure you get counted and represented so we are able to take advantage of all of these opportunities. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Russ. Russ has been an excellent partner. He's been very invested in this right from the get-go and has been a real strong leader for the Complete Count Committee in Franklin County. So Russ, thank you. Next is Mr. Jim Monty. James W. Monty is the town supervisor for the town of Lewis, a member of the Essex County Board of Supervisors, and he also happens to be on our board of directors here at United Way. Jim's a great community leader, always rolls his sleeves up and gets involved, and he's here to make a few remarks on behalf of Essex County. Jim?
Thank you, John. Good morning. I guess it's afternoon. Thank you all for being here. I just can't reiterate more of what Assemblyman Jones said and everyone else here, how important it is to get this information out so we can get it back. So many times I hear from constituents across the county is our voices are never heard. Our voices are never heard. Well, here's a good first step to get our voices heard. So I really am trying to encourage our constituents in Essex County to get out and get this information there so it can bring us the funding we need. It gets us the recognition that we need. Things that are vital to the North Country so we can exist. And I'm amazed at how well we're doing given the pandemic that we are in right now, but we can still do better. And that being said, again, I want to thank you all for being here, and I want to thank my colleagues here for what they're doing. This is a very important issue, and thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And as I said, Jim's always there to answer the call and get involved in important issues. Next is Mr. Glenn Cutter from the Clinton County Planning Department. Glenn's been a tremendous partner. He's been involved in the Complete Count Committee process right from the get-go. He's been our key contact at Clinton County government and a great asset to the process. Glenn?
I think that, like everyone else has said, there's so many parts to the census. It's hard for everyone to understand how important it is. It affects just about everything at this point. People use it for marketing. Economic decisions are made based on the census information. So that's one factor that we probably haven't talked about too much. And I guess one of the things I'd like to mention is the census takers are out there now. They're mostly local people that are working for the federal government, and they're not easy to tell that they're from the census, but they do have a badge. If you're worried about that, they have a badge they can show you. They will be coming to your house if you haven't filled out the census. So one way to avoid, if you don't want people to come to your house, is to get online and fill it out now, or call the census's phone number. You can also find that in different sources. So that's a pretty big thing. If you don't want to have to talk with the census person, you'll need to get online and fill that form out as soon as you can. One other thing that they saw in the last census was that small children weren't counted properly. So that can happen sometimes, especially if you have a split family. Someone needs to count those children that are under a certain age. They often go overlooked during the census. And I think that's it for what I have to say. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Glenn. And he made a really important point. I want to reiterate it. The census takers that are in the field are mostly people who live in this region, who happen to be working temporarily for the Census Bureau. They're our neighbors. They're people who live nearby. They're going to knock on your door potentially. We want people to understand it's okay to answer the door and talk to the census takers. But if you'd like to avoid a visit from the census takers, you can self-respond. And as the Assemblyman said, you can do that online at census.gov. You can do that by telephone at a number I've provided to all of you, or you can do that by sending in your mailer if you received one at your home. So thank you, Glenn. Next up is Kathy Snow. She's our Director of Development. She's been very involved in the Complete Count process from day one. She's been tracking the data pretty closely, and she's going to give you a snapshot of where we're at currently and where we ended in 2010 during the last census for all three counties. Kathy?
So right now, as it stands, the U.S. self-response rate is 65.5%. New York State self-response rate is at 61.9%. Clinton County at this time is at 63.3%, which is higher than the state average. In 2010, they ended at 61.9%. So they're already above what they responded in 2010. Essex County self-response rate is 40.9% as of today. In 2010, they ended at 51.5%. Franklin County self-response rate as of today is 50.9%. In 2010, they ended at 59.4%. Thank you.